You probably grew up watching Full House. Or maybe your kids did. Either way, that show felt like family. A warm living room, a house full of laughter, and every problem solved with a hug before the credits rolled. But here is what nobody told you. The real stories happening behind those walls were nothing like what you saw on screen. Addiction, prison, abuse buried for decades, a death that happened on the most heartbreaking day possible, and a mystery involving one of Hollywood's most famous deaths that has never been fully explained. So today we are going to walk through that house one more time. Only this time we are going to tell you the truth. Let us start with the man who welcomed you into that house every single week. Bob Saget played Danny Tanner, the warm-hearted dad who always had the right words. But before fame ever found him, life had already handed Bob something most people could not survive. His family lost 4 children. His twin brothers died at birth. Then his sister Andrea suffered a brain aneurysm and died at just 32 years old. And then came the loss that truly broke him. His sister Gay was diagnosed with a rare and brutal disease called scleroderma, where your body slowly hardens from the inside. Doctors kept telling her it was something else. Lupus, stress, mental illness. By the time they finally figured it out, it was already too late. Gay died at 47. Bob once said the images from her final days never truly left his mind. And yet every day he went to work and made people laugh. That is the kind of strength most people never even talk about. For nearly 30 years after losing Gay, Bob quietly raised over $35 million for scleroderma research. He wrote and directed a film about her life. He never stopped fighting for a cure she never lived to see. Then came the night of January 9, 2022. That date matters because it was Gay's 75th birthday. Bob had posted a tribute to her that very morning. That same night, he walked off stage after a 2-hour stand-up show in Florida. He was in a great mood. He even posted online saying he felt happily alive again, addicted to performing. He went back to his hotel room. There were no drugs, no alcohol. He simply fell in his bathroom, fractured the base of his skull, and went to sleep not knowing his brain was bleeding. He was found the next morning. He died on his sister's birthday, doing the thing he loved most right up until the very end. If that does not stay with you, nothing will. Now let us talk about the girl who played his oldest daughter. Candace Cameron was just 11 years old when she first walked into the Tanner house as DJ. But behind that confident smile was a teenager carrying something very heavy. At school, she was being bullied relentlessly by classmates who resented her fame, pulling her hair, pushing her around. The same girl millions of kids admired on television was being tormented between takes. And in private, she was battling bulimia. For years, she hid it. She did not speak about it publicly until 2013, and the honesty of that moment shocked people who had only ever seen her wholesome image. But here is a sweeter story tucked inside all of that. Her castmate Dave Coulier, who played goofy Uncle Joey, introduced her to her future husband at a charity hockey game. After she and NHL player Valeri Bure got married, Valeri sent Dave an autographed hockey stick. The note said, "Dear Dave, thank you for Candace. And if you want one more detail that shows you how blurred the lines were between the show and real life, Candace actually took her on-screen boyfriend to her real high school prom. The character and the girl had almost become the same person. After Full House ended, Candace walked away from Hollywood for nearly 10 years, following her husband's hockey career all across North America. When she came back, she became one of the biggest stars in holiday television. Then, in 2025, she did something she said was entirely for Bob Saget. She competed on a singing competition wearing a costume and a disguise, and she said it was her way of honoring him. That is a friendship that went far deeper than any script ever could. Then there is John Stamos. He was 24 years old, all leather jacket and dark hair, and every person in America seemed to be in love with him. Uncle Jesse was the cool one, the heartthrob. But in 2023, John finally told the world something he had been carrying since he was 10 years old. A babysitter had abused him. He had packed the memory away so deeply that it did not fully surface until he was writing a speech for a children's charity award. He was being honored for his work protecting abused children, and while writing those words, he suddenly realized he was one of them. He said he almost made the entire speech about himself, then stopped and decided that night was about the children, not him. And for over 20 years, he had been out there advocating for abused kids while silently carrying this secret the whole time. His life after the show hit some very dark places. A divorce, the loss of both parents, a DUI arrest in 2015 that he describes as his personal rock bottom. He checked into rehab and began the slow climb back. It was not until he became a father for the first time at 54 that things really shifted for him. And when Bob Saget suddenly died, something cracked open in John completely. He has said that loss finally pushed him to stop pretending and start telling the truth about his life. He is in his 60s now and somehow still looks exactly the same, but the man behind the face has changed in every way that matters. Let us talk about Stephanie Tanner now, because her story might be the rawest thing in this entire video. Jodie Sweetin was 5 years old when Full House began. 5. She had no idea what any of it meant. She just knew she loved making people laugh. But before she was even 1 year old, both of her biological parents had been sent to prison. She was adopted by her uncle at 9 months old and told never to speak about it publicly. Her biological father was later killed in a prison riot. She was a 6-year-old child carrying a secret most adults would crumble under. 1 year after Full House ended, 14-year-old Jodie attended a caste wedding. She drank multiple bottles of wine and had to be helped out of the room. She later said, "That set the pattern for exactly the kind of drinking I would do." That was her very first drink. Over the next 13 years, she used ecstasy, methamphetamine, and crack cocaine. By her mid-20s, she was spending $10,000 at a time to get high, paid for entirely by her Full House residual checks. She attended a movie premiere, snorted drugs in a bathroom stall beforehand, walked the red carpet, and pulled it off without anyone knowing. Then came the moment that truly breaks your heart. The night before she was scheduled to give a sobriety speech at a packed university auditorium, she used drugs until 5 in the morning. She used more before going on stage. She then stood at that podium and lied to a room full of college students about how well her recovery was going. Halfway through the speech, she broke down crying. The room gave her a standing ovation. It took child services investigating her for driving drunk with her baby in the car to finally wake her up completely. She has been clean since 2008. Today she works as a drug counselor, turning the darkest years of her life into a reason to help other people survive theirs. Dave Coulier, who everybody knew as lovable Uncle Joey with his cartoon voices and his goofy impressions, has a story that will quietly knock the wind out of you. He grew up making people laugh, moved to Hollywood at 19, and was performing alongside Jay Leno and Jerry Seinfeld before he was 20. He was actually cast on Saturday Night Live but was cut before the season started because producers thought he was too similar to another cast member. One single decision, and his entire life took a different road. What most people never knew was that Dave and Bob Saget had been close friends long before the show ever existed. In the early 1980s, Dave briefly lived on Bob's couch while trying to make it in Hollywood. That is nearly word for word the Joey Gladstone storyline. Life wrote the show before the show existed. Then in late 2024, doctors found a large lump in Dave's neck, stage 3 lymphoma. He fought it and beat it. Then months later, doctors found a completely separate cancer at the base of his tongue. He went through 35 rounds of radiation and finished treatment on New Year's Eve. He recently announced he is in remission again. During the worst of it, John Stamos flew to Michigan wearing a bald cap just to make his old friend laugh so hard he could barely breathe. After all these years and all that has happened, the bond between these men is stronger than any disease. Now here is the story that gets more complicated the longer you look at it. The Olsen twins were just 9 months old when they started sharing the role of little Michelle Tanner. By the time they were 12, their faces were on over $1 billion worth of merchandise. But that kind of fame has a price. In 2004, just weeks before Mary-Kate turned 18, her parents could see she was physically fading. She was battling anorexia, and the signs were visible for all the world to see. Her parents knew that the moment she turned 18 and became a legal adult with full control of her empire, they might lose their chance to help her. So they moved quickly. They got her into a treatment facility in Utah before she could refuse. That intervention may have saved her life. Then in January 2008, actor Heath Ledger was found dead in his Manhattan apartment. He and Mary-Kate had been quietly seeing each other for months. When his housekeeper found him unresponsive, she did not call emergency services. She called Mary-Kate 4 times. And instead of immediately telling the woman to dial 911, Mary-Kate said she would send her private security team to the apartment. 9 minutes passed before anyone finally called for help. When investigators began looking into the drugs that killed Heath Ledger, they wanted to question Mary-Kate. She refused to say a single word unless she was granted full legal immunity, meaning she could not be prosecuted for anything she said. The investigation was eventually dropped because she would not speak without that protection. She has never explained publicly why she needed legal immunity to discuss the death of someone she cared about. She has not said Heath Ledger's name in an interview in nearly 17 years. That silence has never been fully explained, and it never really goes away. And then there is Loughlin, who played the warm and gracious Aunt Becky for all those years and became one of the most beloved figures on the show. In 2019, her world collapsed completely when it was revealed she and her husband had paid $500,000 to get their daughters into a prestigious university using fake athletic profiles. She showed up to her first court appearance smiling and signing autographs. She fought the charges. Then at sentencing, she read a statement saying she thought she was acting out of love. The judge looked directly at her and said, "You had a fairy tale life, and yet here you stand, a convicted felon. For what?" She served 60 days in federal prison. Every major show she had worked on cut her out. Her comeback has been long and difficult. And in late 2025, it was reported that her marriage of nearly 28 years had also ended. The fairy tale completely gone. Full House gave us something rare. It made us believe that every hard thing could be fixed by the end of the episode, that love was always enough, and that family would hold no matter what. And maybe some of that was true. The friendship between Bob Saget and Dave Coulier. John Stamos flying across the country to make a sick friend laugh. Jodie Sweetin turning her darkest years into a reason to fight for other people. These things were real, but so was everything else. The grief, the addiction, the secrets, the fall from grace, the silence that never fully breaks. That is the Full House nobody filmed. And now you know it.